Yes. Hello, good Mike. Hello. Right now on the National Weather Desk. There. There we go. Right now on the National Weather Desk, the tropics may be heating up just days before the start of hurricane season. A week of heavy rain has a major impact on drought conditions across the South. We'll explain how something called an omega block is impacting much of the nation's weather.
Very slow-moving weather pattern that acts like a traffic jam in the upper atmosphere.
Also, how rising temperatures impact air quality, especially in urban areas.
Something we call ground-level ozone.
And we'll take you on a trip to Big Bend National Park.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter. Hurricane season officially begins on Monday, and while the Atlantic is still quiet, the tropics are starting to wake up in the eastern Pacific. The National Hurricane Center is now monitoring the first tropical activity of the year. It's an area of potential development west of Mexico and Central America. The center says it has a 50% chance of developing into a tropical cyclone over the next week. We could see more hurricanes in the Pacific this year thanks to the arrival of a strong El Nino. That could also mean fewer storms in the Atlantic. Florida meteorologist Lauren Oleski shows us how those storms form, starting thousands of miles away from the U.S. mainland.
There are several factors that go into hurricane development and how these storms sustain themselves. So let's put our graphics into the studio and talk about it. What we would typically see is a wave coming off the coast of Africa. From there, as we start to see more of the ocean surface get warm, heating from the sun, if you will, we see that air begin to evaporate and rise. It's a very similar setup to what happens to us in the rainy season. It gets very hot in South Florida. We see that evaporation, eventually clouds form, and we end up with thunderstorms. In the tropics, though, we start to see these areas organizing a bit more, eventually becoming an area of low pressure. From there, these systems then move west across the Atlantic Ocean through the main development region. Sometimes we call it the MDR for short. And as they continue to move west through the tropical Atlantic, they can organize, eventually becoming either a tropical storm or strengthen into a hurricane. That's what you're seeing right here. They have that well-defined center of circulation and potentially that eye if they become strong enough. Now, as these storms move across the Atlantic Ocean, they fuel themselves on the sea surface temperatures or on the sea surface below. We need those temperatures to be at least about 80 degrees or above in order for these storms to continue to develop. Now, we would love to actually see temperatures below that so that these storms don't develop at all. Hurricanes also want to avoid land at all costs. They can't fuel themselves if they're over land anywhere. They also fall apart. There's more friction. That's why we see storms dissipating when they make landfall somewhere. So if a hurricane wants to continue to exist or potentially strengthen, it doesn't want to go over any land. Also, we want to see an area of high pressure above these storms. That keeps the sky clear, that keeps wind shear down, and it allows the storm to maintain its strength. Obviously, we want the opposite of all of these to occur for us so that we don't see any hurricanes at all. Remember, hurricane season runs until November 30th.
New evidence today that last week's heavy rain across the South made a dent in the region's ongoing drought. This is last week's map from the U.S. Drought Monitor. It's been fairly consistent over the past few weeks with areas of severe drought from Oklahoma to Iowa, as well as across the South. Now, here's the latest map. Much of the red that stretched across Kentucky, Tennessee, and the Carolinas is now down to orange. That's good news for those regions, but there's still a ways to go before drought conditions completely disappear. Meteorologist Riley Blackwell takes a closer look at the situation in Alabama.
Part of Alabama was actually in an extreme or even exceptional drought, especially further down to the south. But then we had a week of almost torrential rainfall, and this is what some places across the area saw. Over half of Coleman County saw over 5 inches of rain. Periodic places in Pickens County saw 5 inches of rain, about 4 inches of rain for most of Jefferson County, about 3.5 inches of rain for Tuscaloosa, almost 5 inches of rain down in Bibb County. So how did all of that rain help us out with this week's drought monitor? We are seeing significant improvement in this week's drought monitor. No part of Alabama in an extreme or an exceptional drought. Thankfully, this dry stage of drought has been extended further to the south and east. We still have some places with a moderate or severe drought, but thankfully with all of this rainfall we've had, week by week, we are seeing improvements in terms of our current drought situation.
Now, much of the nation's weather this week has been influenced by something known as an omega block. It's not a new phenomenon. It's fairly common in the spring. Maine meteorologist Hannah Sheehy explains what it's all about.
An omega block is a very slow-moving weather pattern that acts like a traffic jam in the upper atmosphere. It develops when a large ridge of high pressure becomes stuck between 2 areas of low pressure on either side. This creates the shape of the Greek letter omega. Because the pattern stalls in place, weather conditions underneath it also tend to stall. That means areas stuck under low pressure often deal with lingering clouds, cooler temperatures, and repeated rounds of rain. Meanwhile, locations beneath the ridge of high pressure typically stay warmer and sunnier. In many cases, New England ends up on the unsettled side of the omega block, which is exactly what we're expecting over the next several days. This setup is most common during the spring and summer months and can last anywhere from 3 to 10 days, though some events linger even longer. The omega block developing now is expected to stick around through the weekend and into early next week, bringing several rounds of rain along with cloudy and cool conditions.
A wildfire last week outside of Los Angeles burned hundreds of acres. It also devastated one beekeeper's hives, killing millions of bees. Zach Boetto has that story.
These bees are fire survivors.
Yep, so these are what's left of the hives.
But beekeeper Brendan Teller, who keeps these bees on this property near Hemet, says this is only a small fraction of what's left after 3 to 4 million of his bees were killed last week when the Verona fire burned through nearly 640 acres in this area.
As the beekeeper, that's devastating to me.
Teller goes across Southern California rescuing unwanted European honeybees, then rehomes them on this farm. When they're healthy enough to go to work, he rents them out to alfalfa and almond farmers to pollinate their crops.
And we say, hey, we've got plenty of hives right here. They're ready to go. They've got fresh queens, and they're hungry. And farmers love it.
Teller says losing those 3 to 4 million bees impacts more than just the farmers.
Keeping bees and maintaining bees at this scale is what allows the farmer to produce costs or food at a lower cost.
Teller says for the consumer, that means more affordable groceries. The financial loss, Teller believes, is in the hundreds of thousands and will take him roughly 2 years to rebuild before he can rent his bees out again. He says the larger message is fire prevention.
The old song goes, this land is my land, this land is your land. It's all of our land, and we have to conserve it. We have to preserve it, and we have to maintain it, and we have to do it responsibly.
Okay, the phrase once in a blue moon. How often is that? Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs explains.
I'm sure you've heard the saying, that happens once in a blue moon. And you think, well, that means it doesn't happen very often, or it's a miracle that it happened. But did you know that there is really such thing as a blue moon? It's going to happen just next week. So we had our first moon of the month on May 1st. Now we're going to have a second full moon during the month of May on May 31st. So when you have a second full moon within one calendar month, it's considered a blue moon. Now, obviously, this doesn't happen very often. It's generally once every 2.5 to 3 years because the moon cycle is approximately 29.5 days. So every once in a while, we can squeeze in a 13th full moon during a calendar year. So the second full moon of the calendar month that occurs in during the year is when you consider it a blue moon.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll help you better understand the misnomer and often misunderstood heat lightning. Plus, tips for staying weather aware during the summer travel season. And as we head to break, we take to the skies with a flock of pink flamingos in Mexico.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We're tracking an action-packed forecast in the Northeast in the coming days. We'll have sun and clouds out there today. If you liked it yesterday, you'll like today. This is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're just starting to introduce some of that steady rainfall through northern New England. This will be primarily tonight and into Saturday morning. The mountains will actually get a little bit of snow out of this over the higher elevations. Onshore winds will gust around 40 miles per hour. There may be some scattered outages near the coast. The second part of your Saturday will be best.
I'm meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the mid-Atlantic region. High pressure will keep most of the region dry. However, toward New England and into parts of New York and Pennsylvania, some showers are possible. A cold front will lead to a cool down into Saturday. Most of us will stay dry over the weekend. Temperatures will rise to the 60s and 70s for a gorgeous afternoon. Then overnight, low temperatures will drop to the 40s, 50s, and 60s across the region.
I'm meteorologist Lauren Oleski with a look at your forecast. It's going to be warm across the southeast Friday afternoon. Temperatures mostly in the 80s, but probably hitting 90 in a few spots across Florida. And rain chances on the rise. There's a lot of moisture that's going to be coming out of the Gulf. That's going to help to spark the chance for showers and thunderstorms across a good portion of the southeast for Friday afternoon, likely bringing some heavy downpours at times. The rain chance is going to stay elevated heading into the overnight hours and likely continue into Saturday and Sunday.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
And welcome back to the National Weather Desk. We now want to give you some weather lessons from our team of meteorologists across the country. As temperatures warm, air quality can start to become an issue. Meteorologist John Gum explains.
Well, as we turn to the late spring and summer months across the country, things are heating up, and we start to get more problems with air pollution, specifically something we call ground level ozone. As pollutants build up over America's cities, we get something called nitrogen dioxide, other volatile organic compounds from the exhaust from cars, factories, and all of that builds up in the atmosphere. Then a reaction occurs as that combines with the sun's energy, sunlight, heat during the summer months, and a chemical reaction happens that takes that nitrogen dioxide, breaks off one of the oxygen molecules, and as that combines with the oxygen in the air, we get something called ozone. Now, ozone is good up high. It protects us from the sun's UV rays, but at ground level, ozone can be a major problem. The other thing with ozone is that it moves. And so if you're in an outlying area, suburban area, rural area, you can still have problems with ozone because it does move on the prevailing winds. Ozone, too, can cause coughing, scratchy throats, other big health problems like inflammation of your airways. It can make your lungs more susceptible to disease as well. And existing diseases like asthma, emphysema can be made worse by this ground level ozone. Things we could do to improve air quality include combining your trips in the hot summer months. Take as few as possible. Also, if you need to gas up your car, do it later in the day as opposed to earlier in the day. That helps cut down on these VOCs that can lead to ozone formation. Maybe you're going to mow the lawn. Do that again later in the day instead of in the middle of the day, because that can also help to limit ozone across the nation.
And in the warmer months, a lot of people say they see something called heat lightning. But what if I told you heat lightning isn't real? Meteorologist Marshall McPeak explains why you might see lightning in the late spring and summer, even when there's no thunderstorm nearby.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Marshall McPeak. We've had some storms recently that have involved what a lot of folks call heat lightning. Now, that's kind of a misnomer because it's not actually the heat that causes the lightning, but the heat does help cause some storms. So here's what's really happening. Let's say you've got some clear sky at your house, but about 15, 20 miles away, there's a convective storm. Now, let's talk about that convective storm first, because it's important to make the distinction. When we have clouds as far as the eye can see, just a cloud deck that's thick and you can't see an individual storm, it makes it difficult for this heat lightning to happen. You need clear sky where you are and a storm in the distance. Convective storms can tend to happen on their own, so you can actually see the individual storm. So when that's developing the lightning, you can see it from all the way out here. The house that's closer to the storm is still going to hear that lightning. It only takes about 5 seconds for the lightning to create the thunder and the thunder to travel about a mile. The thunder goes pretty fast, but only at the speed of sound. Of course, the lightning, speed of light. So the difference is, if you're close to the storm, you hear the thunder. But out here where it's clear, you're 10, 15 miles away, the sound attenuates. It dissipates with distance. So what happens then is you see the lightning, but you don't hear any thunder because you're too far away. Some of these storms you can see 40, 50, even 80 miles away if they're big enough. So you'll see the lightning but not hear the thunder. So that's what we call heat lightning, but when you see it happen, it's really just that you're too far away to hear the thunder.
There are lots of things to see in the sky, and that's especially true this time of the year. Meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell explains sun halos and why they're so common in the late spring and early summer.
Well, hi there, everybody. This is the time of year as we approach the summer solstice when you really can hit the atmospheric optics bingo card. And that's exactly what Amit Gupta did earlier this week in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest. Look at this beautiful shot of the Space Needle surrounded not only by a 22-degree halo, but you see the tangential arcs all around it on either side, plus a pair of sundogs there on either side of the sun. How exactly do these form? Well, we have some high cloud cover. That's one of the ingredients you need. High cirrus made of ice crystals that are shaped just so that they bend or refract the light and bend it in such a degree, 22 degrees to be exact, that by the time it hits our eye, it creates what we call a sundog on either side of the sun. So a very cool feature around here. Again, summer solstice right around the corner. Sundogs, the 22-degree halos and the like, a lot easier to see this time of year with the sun angled just right. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell for the National Weather Desk.
And summer's almost here, and that means many of you will vacation at one of our country's beautiful national parks. But you want to make sure you're prepared, not only for the stunning views and adventures, but also the weather. Meteorologist Chikage Windler takes us to Big Bend National Park for more.
I'm meteorologist Chikage Windler at Big Bend National Park, where extreme weather, including heat and sudden storms, are a way of life for folks who may not have all the modern conveniences, including access to things like a radar app.
You know, you'd be better off using your eyeballs because you can see weather coming in but you don't always have reception or Wi-Fi or anything like that to be able to have one of those apps working.
The problem is there are miles and miles of canyons like this with no service.
In the middle of that canyon, you're at least 5 miles away from either end. So you've got to be very aware and careful.
So if there were a storm brewing, it wouldn't show up here.
Expect the unexpected.
One of the best hikes, which we're not going to do just because of the amount of water here, is the Santa Elena Canyon hike. And as you can see, it doesn't look like the water's very deep, but it's almost waist deep on some of the folks trying to cross over at this spot in order to get to the trail. Summer monsoon season means dry creek beds could turn impassable in minutes. And then there's the heat.
This summer has already been about 110 almost every day, 105 to 110.
So have a plan to make your visit a safe one. Check the forecast before you arrive. You can also find it posted at the Visitor Center. When we were there, highs reached 96 in the mountains and 117 along the Rio Grande. Go early. Temps are much more manageable right after sunrise. Tell someone where you're heading. Never hike alone. Always stay on the trail and beware of wildlife. Don't forget the sunscreen and protective clothing, and bring plenty of water. If you really want to make sure that you're prepared, you can always hire a guide, right?
It works. And there's enough of them down here, so yeah.
Above all things, know your limitations, take it slow, take lots of breaks, and have fun. National parks, even those with extremes like Big Bend, can be fantastic.
And as we head to break, we leave Texas, but we soar over the Swiss Alps.
Good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We've got just beautiful weather across the Midwest and Great Lakes as we head into the weekend, but got rain out across the southern plains as we go through the day tomorrow. That lifts its way north into the Dakotas, and the Great Lakes still staying dry throughout the weekend, but got that rain out there across Iowa, Missouri, and even into the Dakotas as we head into your Sunday.
Well, good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off in the 60s and 70s. And through the day, we'll get a fair amount of some sunshine. There is a little bit of a rain chance scattered across East Texas, Louisiana, into Arkansas. Highs only in the low to mid 80s. And then as we head into the weekend forecast, looking pretty good for outdoor plans across the region on Saturday. Sort of a typically hot day, 80s to low 90s. And see just a very isolated rain chance Saturday across the region.
Well, hi there and a happy Friday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. May winding down with sunshine and 88 today in the Valley of the Sun. Pretty nice around Phoenix and Tucson. San Francisco, the Bay Area trying for drying, back into the low 60s there as this disturbance lifts past the northwest where it brought severe weather last night to Oregon and Washington. Gusty wind in its wake with lingering showers today in northern Nevada. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Now it's time for another 1-minute weather lesson. Here's meteorologist Rhonda Shelby explaining radiation fog.
Ever wonder how you can go to bed with clear skies and wake up to something like this the next morning? Well, this is called radiation fog, and here's how it forms. It begins with a clear night. As the ground cools, heat escapes back into the atmosphere. Then a thin layer of moisture forms underneath the drier air, and that rising air continues to move up through that layer. Then that moist layer cannot absorb much heat, so it cools really quickly near the ground. The moist layer cools down to the dew point, turns to water, then water vapor, and then fog finally forms. Across the nation, the Pacific Northwest, the Appalachian region, and parts of New England experience, on average, the most days with dense fog per year. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Rhonda Shelby.
As we go to break, views over New Orleans. And we want to thank everyone for watching us for the past 4 years. This is the final episode of the National Weather Desk. Thanks to our meteorologists and viewers like you for your contributions over the years. We hope you learned a lot about weather, climate, and the environment. For everyone here, I'm meteorologist Matt Ritter, and remember,